When people speak about Adolf Hitler and World War II, the focus is often on armies, battles, and political decisions. But behind the front lines, behind the tanks and speeches, there existed another battlefield, one that was rarely acknowledged and almost never given the attention it deserves. It was the silent war waged against women. A war that targeted their bodies, their identities, their freedoms, and their very existence. Hitler's ideology was built on control, racial purity, and the destruction of anything that contradicted his vision. For women, this meant being reduced to a single purpose, producing children for the Reich. From the moment the Nazis rose to power, women were pushed into a system that treated them not as individuals, but as tools, vessels for a future generation Hitler hoped would dominate the world. Nazi propaganda celebrated motherhood only as long as it served the regime. Women received medals for having many children, yet those children were meant to become loyal servants of the Führer. Women were removed from universities, barred from professional careers, and pushed back into a world defined by Kinder, Küche, Kirche, children, kitchen, church. To the Nazis, a woman's mind had no value. Only her ability to give birth did. But this was only the beginning. The brutality went far deeper. Jewish women, Romani women, Slavic women, and countless others persecuted under Nazi racial laws faced a darker reality. They were stripped of rights, dignity, and safety. In the ghettos and concentration camps, women endured inhumane conditions designed to break the human spirit. Families were torn apart. Mothers watched their children suffer. Daughters were separated from their parents. The trauma they carried had no voice, no justice, and no place in the records for decades. Inside the camps, survival became a daily struggle. Women were forced into grueling labor, starved, and subjected to cruel punishments. Many were sent to medical barracks where Nazi doctors performed unethical experiments, claiming it was science. These women were treated like objects, tested on, observed, discarded. The world would only learn the full extent of these crimes long after the war ended. Hitler's hatred toward women extended even to those considered acceptable under his racial rules. German women were manipulated, pressured, and controlled through strict laws and social expectations. Their choices were dictated by the state, who they could marry, how many children they should have, and what their role in society must be. Those who resisted faced punishment or ostracization. For Hitler, a woman with independent thought was a threat to the Nazi vision. Yet even in this darkest chapter, women resisted. They carried messages for underground groups, hid families in their homes, smuggled food into ghettos, and joined partisan fighters. Some worked as spies, others sabotaged Nazi operations from within. Their courage came at tremendous risk. Many were captured, interrogated, and punished. Their stories remained overshadowed by larger military narratives, but their bravery was a critical part of the struggle against tyranny. As the war dragged on, women across Europe suffered immense losses. Bombings destroyed their homes. Food shortages left mothers starving so their children could eat. Millions were displaced, walking miles across ruined cities and battlefields with nothing but determination keeping them alive. These were not soldiers, but victims of a war they never wanted, caught in the crossfire of a dictator's ambition. History often highlights the role of men in war, generals, soldiers, politicians, but the suffering of women under Hitler's rule was profound, widespread, and deliberately inflicted.
They faced oppression not just as members of targeted groups, but as women living under a system designed to limit their freedom, control their bodies, and silence their voices. Hitler's war on women was not fought with guns and tanks. It was fought through laws, propaganda, violence, and fear. It was a war that stripped millions of women of their rights, their futures, and in many cases, their lives. And though the world has moved forward, the stories of these women, mothers, daughters, sisters, fighters, must never be forgotten. Their strength, suffering, and silent resistance reveal another side of World War II, the side that exposes the devastating human cost of hate. It reminds us that behind every headline and historical event, there are countless individuals whose stories deserve to be told. The women who endured Hitler's regime were not just casualties of history, they were survivors of a war the world rarely recognized. Their voices may have been hidden, but their courage shaped the generations that followed.